Good morning, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. So I had an article sent to me earlier today. Jerome Powell sent a letter to one of the congressmen out there, kind of explaining his position or explaining the Federal Reserve's position as far as allowing inflation to run extra hot for an extended period of time. And he says that that the Federal Reserve does not seek to have substantial inflation over 2%, nor do they seek to let it run for a prolonged period of time. I mean, that's what he said to this congressman. And I'm thinking that totally contradicts everything that they have said up to this point. I mean, in fact, they have pushed that narrative that they are going to let inflation run hot for an extended period of time for months now. See, the thing is that it's really hard to try and wrap your head around it. There are so many working and moving parts of this economy, and it seems like every day I'm learning something new, and I think to myself, how in the world did I not know this before? But what I see right now is severe supply constraints. Now, whether it happened because of COVID on purpose or accident or due to the virus, whatever. I mean, you can go ahead and make up all kinds of conspiracy theories or scientific evidence. It doesn't matter. What matters is the outcome. We went into recession. The Federal Reserve masked it over with a lot of money printing and asset purchases, mainly treasuries and mortgage-backed securities. They set up lending facilities. They dumped massive amounts of money to cover up the system. They shut production down. Everybody went home. It was almost, if you just take the virus out of it, if you take the Federal Reserve and the Treasury and the medical lockdown or whatever you want to call it, just take that reasoning away for a minute and just think about what happened. Everything shut down, right? Everything. And as time went on, things were slow to move again. And as we open back up again, it's hard to get that supply out there and going. There is demand for it, but there's not a lot of production taking place as far as filling in that lack of supply that has taken place. Now, I'm not just talking lumber. I talk a lot of lumber, and this is what I relate to a lot, but this is happening in a lot of places, not just lumber. It's happening in all over the place for all kinds of things. So now just think about this for just a minute. If we just kind of stand back and just kind of look at the picture and just think, okay, if there was not this huge supply constraint happening, which is one of the things that, Jerome Powell has said in this letter is the reasoning why we're seeing the prices increasing as high as we are, is because of supply constraints, which we definitely experienced over the last year. If we did not have this supply constraint causing the prices to increase, we would be going through some serious deflation. That is what I believe. But because everything shut down and production came to a halt, and now there's a demand there, and it's outpacing the production, then the prices go up. You see where I'm getting at, guys? This is not an inflation scenario. This is not the inflation scenario that people are anticipating. This is one of the reasons why you're seeing the Federal Reserve saying that it's not inflation either, but that is a disruption to the supply chain. And when you have a demand at the same time you have a shortage of production, then you're going to see the prices increase. And this is one of the things that I keep trying to explain to people, that it's just like, if you look at it as just an inflationary scenario and you're not looking at the supply constraint at the same time that the demand coming into it, and you're not taking that into consideration, then you're missing a huge part of it. I understand there has been a lot of money printing. I get it, all right? The direct injections of money into the people's bank accounts, into the people's wallets, is going to have inflationary pressure. It's going to increase the demand out there. Only thing I'm saying is that if the production was up where the demand is now, I have a feeling the prices would be coming down, even with all the money printed. So now we look at things like housing. Okay. House prices are off the charts, and they're about ready to really go off the charts. I mean, if you thought that they were expensive now, if you thought that you were in good fortune because you were able to buy a $300,000 house a year and a half ago and it's now worth $500,000, think again. What happens when you sell that house? You have no place to live. You can't build a house because it's too expensive. And even if you wanted to build a house, the supply constraint to material is going to make it very difficult. See, there was a time you could just call up and get it. But now you call up and they say, nope, sorry, I'm all out of stock. Going to be 6 weeks out. Going to be, your windows. Oh, you didn't order them before you started framing? Ooh. Tough luck. Your projects are going to stall out. And it's going to take you a lot longer to complete them. See, all these people talk about, well, the new building permit issuance. Yeah, that's fine. You can go ahead and issue out all the building permits you want. Can you complete the house? That's the difference. See, before I left work yesterday, the lead salesman out there and the guys who handle the house packages were on the phone calling their guys up, all the people who are building a house right now who are going to be needing tongue and groove flooring, the 3/4 inch plywood tongue and groove flooring, calling them all up and saying, you guys better get your stuff now because it's 6 weeks out at least. We didn't see it coming. 3/4 inch OSB, because of the MDI shortage of resin out there, has finally depleted the inventories out there of 3/4 inch subfloor. Everybody started buying into the plywood and depleted the plywood as well. So now the allocations have begun, and it's very difficult to source out tongue and groove plywood. We were able to find a vendor who would sell us 2 units. That's it. It only takes a house package and you'll eat up a unit and a half easy on an average house. These are, whether it's a slowdown on because there's no demand out there, or it's a slowdown because people simply just can't get it. Either way, you're slowing down. And that's where I'm trying to get at, guys. House prices, if this takes place where, sheathing is one thing, like studs and sheathing, okay? If you run out of studs, you're done. But you can run out of sheathing. You can at least frame the house. I mean, it's difficult. It's not as easy. It's easier to sheet the wall before you stand it. But you can go back and sheet the wall later, even after the walls are standing. So you can build the skeleton of the entire house and then go back and sheet it. But if you run out of subfloor, once you have the floor joist down, you have to put that deck down. You have to put that subfloor down before you can stand the next set of walls up. And if you don't have it, you're done. You're absolutely done framing. You cannot go any further. So if you're in need of plywood, if you're in need of 3/4 inch subfloor, I would go out and source it right away. Make sure that your vendor has it, whoever it is that's supplying your project, because it shocked us. We were not expecting it. What are you going to do? You're going to have to step it up to 7/8 subfloor. And then after that, 1 1/8 subfloor. My buddy's over there. So these are the things that, are taking place right now. And if this slows the housing production, then it's going to slow down the overall sale of homes. And if the inventory continues to slow down or diminish, then the prices are going to continue to go off the charts. I mean, I'm hearing of people who are offering up $50,000 over asking price, waiving everything, all inspections, fees. They're trying to take on as much possibilities of being able to purchase this home, including paying more for it, and still failing to get the house. This is unreal. I mean, these are things that, we have never experienced ever. All that will change at some point. And you can see, because of the asset price inflation, the Federal Reserve is getting nervous. And you can see Canada is really nervous about it. They're actually doing something about it. I'll leave links down in the description for all this stuff for you guys. I think about like how much debt there is being taken out at this moment. And people say like, oh, but just look at this country or look at that country. And, they're doing it. They are not doing awesome. And just because they have been able to exist as zombies for as long as they have doesn't mean that it's going to last forever. And I know you've probably heard that before if you were a believer in that this like negative interest rates and the whole, Keynesian system. The whole idea of that system was only meant to last 100 years. Do you realize that? That they asked them, what are you going to do in 100 years? And the response was, it doesn't matter, in 100 years we'll all be dead. Think about that, guys. The whole idea of having a recession is a good thing. And I know a lot of people are going to argue with that fact, but it is. What it does is it clears out the undergrowth, right? It clears out the bad debt, the malinvestment. It's like a wildfire. See, a lot of people look at the wildfire and say, oh my gosh, this devastating thing, that totally unnatural. No, it's the most natural thing ever. It's the most natural cleansing thing ever. And as destructive as it is, as terrifying as it is, as horrific as it is, what comes from it is beautiful. So every time that they try to postpone a recession and allow the wildfire to burn out the undergrowth, every time they postpone that, they just make it ever more difficult. They make it ever more difficult on entrepreneurship. They make it ever more difficult on the average families. They make it ever more difficult. And then the whole time, they're saying they're trying to support. See, I'm not going to get into the Fed's new stance, what they're wading into, their equality. Any opposition to that will be deemed inside of a hatred thought. That's scary to think. And you think about what their support is nothing more than allowing you to go deeper into debt. That's not support. Yes, it is supportive at a time when you're in crisis. I get it. Nobody wants to be sitting there failing in a gutter. I get that. I know. But every time you take out this debt to increase your standard of living and you postpone future spending for current consumption, you're creating issues that you are going to have to deal with. The whole point of this video to try and come out here was to show the extreme efforts that the Federal Reserve is going through to try and maintain this whole system. They drove these houses, they told us they were going to let things run extra hot for an extra period of time in order to make up for the fact that things are running slower for an extended period of time. They did not meet their 2% inflation expectations. So they're going to let inflation run hot. They say they aren't even getting it there. They say that there's mild inflation taking place. But already they're talking about how they are not going to allow things to run extra hot. What they are trying to do is they're trying to keep the house prices elevated. If they can get them up to a certain height that is, although right now extreme, as they pull back the availability of loans, right? As they raise the interest rates, as they start pulling the QE away, the house prices are going to come down. And what they are shooting for is as they come down, they're probably going to overshoot the downward position. And what they're going to do then is kick back into the quantitative easing programs, probably go negative and, issue out central bank digital currencies. This time period could take years. I don't know. I have no idea how long this would take, but this is what I am assuming they're going to attempt to do. If they really do it right, they can keep the house prices just to stay straight, right? For years and years and years and years, and not allow them to drop or elevate any further than where they are right now until everything catches back up again, until the rest of inflation, the wages, everything else can catch up to the over extreme prices of some of these homes. But if they start to fail, the prices of these homes start to fail, it's not going to go well. As people's price of their asset begins to drop, they will dump that thing as fast as possible. Especially if they go underwater, they will get out as quickly as they can. So it is imperative for the Federal Reserve to maintain these prices at this elevation. If they drop, they can come down a little bit, but they can't come down a lot. They can't come down anything extreme. But they can maintain it, or attempt to maintain it, for an extended period of time until the rest of the inflation catches up. So I repeated that, but that's what I kind of guess is going to take place. you know, the monetary system is imperative that they have a functioning mortgage market. So it's not going to fail. They are not, they will go through anything they can do to make sure to keep it from failing. But it may not be the awesome thing that everybody has anticipated being for the last 4 decades. It could turn into a stalled investment where it just doesn't go up in price. You think about it. The material to build a house is off the charts extreme. Off the charts. The value of a home, off the charts extreme. These things will not last forever. Things that cannot go on forever will not. So how long it takes to reverse and how slow of a deterioration that is, or just a maintaining until the rest of the time can catch up, who knows? But if it doesn't and it continues up, then you're going to see home prices go to a point where they are so unachievable that people won't even have a desire to get them anymore. And that's what you'll end up seeing. You'll find people who are just absolutely like no determination to ever achieve that such a level. And you're going to find a demographic of people who just don't care about that thing any longer. The whole system will begin to change. You know, people will live in tighter communities, live in little cubicles, stuff like that. Because why would you spend, you know, an entire working career just so you can have a dwelling to live in when you can, you know, go live in a cubicle for, you know, way less. You just go and live life then. Because that's what I see. That's not going to happen. People want to live in homes. And at some point, all this, that'll change. Uneducated Economist. You guys let me know.